The following verse establishes Allah as the Lord of disasters, pain and suffering, of disease, failure, and heartache.
Koran 64:11. No calamity occurs, no affliction comes, except by the decision and preordainment of Allah. Verse 12. So obey Allah and obey His Messenger Muhammad. But if you turn back, the duty of our Messenger devolves only to convey, Allah, there is no Ilah but He.
Returning to the hypocrites, we are told that they are lurking everywhere.
Quran 64, verse 14. Believers, truly among your wives and your children there are enemies for you, so beware of them. Your wealth and your children are only a trial.
Islam is twisted and inverted. Wives and children are a blessing, not enemies, a joy, not a trial. Ever eager to fleece his flock, the profiteer recited.
Quran 64, verse 16. Fear Allah as much as you can. Listen and obey. Pay the zakat. Those saved from covetousness prosper. If you loan to Allah a beautiful loan, He will double it. He will grant forgiveness, for Allah is most ready to appreciate.
Just think of what this guy could have done with cable TV. Step right up and buy your forgiveness here. Against this backdrop of money-grubbing scriptures, the terrorist raids continued.
Tabari, the messenger ordered Zayed,
the Prophet's former slave turned adoptive son,
out on a raid in which he captured a Quraysh caravan led by Abu Sufyan at a watering place in Najd,
proving that they were civilian businessmen and thus a terrorist target.
A number of their merchants set out with a large amount of silver, since this was the main part of their merchandise. They hired a man to guide them along this route. Zayed captured the caravan and its goods, but was unable to capture the men. He brought the caravan to the Prophet.
If this isn't piracy and terror, the words need to be redefined.
Tabari. The reason for this expedition was that the Quraysh said, Muhammad has damaged our trade and sits astride our road. If we stay in Mecca, we'll consume our capital. The news of the caravan reached the Prophet, as did the information that it contained much wealth and silver vessels. Zayed therefore intercepted it and made himself master of their caravan. The fifth, or khums, was 20,000 dirhams. Allah's apostle took it and divided the other 4/5 among the members of the raiding party. Furat was taken captive. They said to him, If you accept Islam, the messenger will not kill you.
Submit or die has been the modus operandi of Islam ever since. It is a most interesting form of evangelism. Another terrorist raid under their belts, it was time for murder.
The killing of Abu Rafi the Jew
is the very next hadith.
Tabari. In this year, it is said, the killing of Abu Rafi the Jew took place. The reason for his being killed was, it is said, that he used to take the part of Ka'b bin Ashraf against the messenger. The Prophet is said to have sent Abdallah bin Atiq against him in the middle of Jumada, or November of 624.
Muhammad had a rougher time controlling the media than do today's terrorists. Now Muslims just lie, and the press laps it up. There aren't 5 journalists in the entire free world with the will and wisdom to expose Islam.
The messenger sent some Anser under the command of Abu Allah and Abd Allah against Rafi the Jew. Abu Rafi used to injure and wrong the Prophet. Bukhari. One of them sent out and entered their fort. He said, I hid myself in a stable for their animals. They closed the gate. Later they lost a donkey. I went out with them, pretending to look for it. They found the donkey and went home. I went with them.
Tabari provides us with a slightly different twist, one more in keeping with today's jihadists.
Abdallah said to the others, Stay where you are, and I will go and ingratiate myself with the doorkeeper to gain entrance. When he was close, he wrapped himself in his cloak as though he were relieving himself. The doorkeeper called, You there! If you want to come in, come now, because I want to shut the gate. I went in and hid myself in the donkey pen.
Returning to Bukhari.
They closed the gate at night and kept its keys in a small window where I could see them. When the people slept, I took the keys and opened the door. Abu Rafi had company that night, but when they left, I went to him.
Revealing the reason that Islam must be exposed, Tabari reports.
Every time I opened a door, I shut it behind me from the inside, saying to myself, if they become aware, they will not have time to stop me from killing him. When I reached Rafi, he was in a dark room with his family. I did not know where he was in the room. I said, "Oh, Abu Rafi!" When he replied, I proceeded toward the voice and gave him a blow with my sword. He shouted, and I came back, pretending to be a helper. I said, "Oh, Abu," changing the tone of my voice. He asked me, "I don't know who came to strike me with his sword." Then I drove my sword into his belly, and I pushed it forcibly down till it touched the bone. I hit him again and covered him with wounds, but I could not kill him, so I thrust the point of my sword into his stomach until it came out through his back. At that I knew I had killed him.
In front of his wife and children.
I came out, filled with puzzlement, and I went toward a ladder in order to get down, but I fell into a moonlit night and sprained my foot. I bound it with my turban and moved on. I came to my companions and said, "By Allah, I will not leave until I hear the wailing of their women." So I did not move till I heard them crying for the Jewish merchant. I said, "Deliverance! Allah has killed Abu Rafi." I got up, feeling no ailment, and proceeded till we came upon the Prophet and informed him.
Each time Muslims kill, they absolve themselves of the crime by blaming their God. While calling Allah an assassin seems odd, it proves my theory. Allah needs men to do his bidding. Satan is helpless without stooges. And lest we forget, Muhammad had now become a serial killer. Usually such men are condemned, locked up, and repudiated. This one was followed. The next hadith turns murder into a contest.
Tabari. Abu Rafi was one of those who had mustered azab against the Prophet. The Aus had killed Ka'b Ashraf on account of his enmity to the messenger and his inciting people against him. So the Khazraj asked the Prophet for permission to kill Sallam Huqayq, who was in Khaybar. He granted this.
The Anser were comprised of Aus and Khazraj. They were vying for the Prophet's attention by killing Jewish poets. It was an ungodly game.
Tabari and Ishaq. One of the favors which Allah conferred upon his Prophet was that these two tribes of the Anser, the Aus and the Khazraj, used to vie with one another like stallions to carry out the will of Muhammad. The Aus did nothing which benefited him without the Khazraj saying, "By Allah, they will not gain superiority over us in Islam in the eyes of the messenger by doing this," and they would not cease until they had done something similar. Thus, when the Aus killed Ka'b Ashraf on account of his hostility to Muhammad, the Khazraj conferred to find a man comparable to Ka'b in hostility, and called to mind Sallam Huqayq in Khaybar. They asked the Prophet for permission to kill him, and it was granted.
Proving once again that the best Muslims are killers.